Okay, lean in close again. Forget locked doors and familiar sounds for a moment. Let's talk about the open road, late at night. That ribbon of asphalt cutting through absolute darkness, miles from anywhere. It can feel hypnotic, almost peaceful. Just the hum of the tires and the glow of the dashboard. But sometimes, that isolation isn't peaceful. Sometimes, something uses that vast emptiness to play tricks that aren't just tricks. Tricks that leave you cold and questioning the very fabric of reality, long after the sun comes up. My name's Gary. For close to 20 years, I drove truck, long haul, cross-country routes, tight deadlines, living mostly out of my cab. You get used to the solitude, learn to appreciate the quiet miles, especially at night. Less traffic, fewer hassles. Just you, the rig, and the endless white lines reeling you in. You see some strange things out there. Weird weather, accidents, peculiar roadside attractions, frozen in the dead hours. But usually, there's an explanation, or at least a plausible one. Except for this one time. This one time out on a forgotten stretch of highway in the high desert. Probably somewhere in Nevada or eastern Oregon. The kind of place where radio stations fade to static, and the next sign of life is 100 miles away. It was late, probably pushing 1 or 2 a.m. I was running behind schedule, trying to make up time to get to Reno by morning. The night was clear, cold, and utterly black outside the cone of my headlights. Stars scattered across the sky like spilled diamonds, the kind of view you only get miles away from city lights. The road was a 2-lane blacktop, straight as an arrow for miles ahead and behind, cutting through empty sagebrush country. I hadn't seen another vehicle. Not even taillights fading in the distance for maybe an hour. Just the steady drone of my diesel engine, the rhythmic thump of tires over expansion joints, the faint crackle of the CB radio I kept on low, mostly for company, though it was dead silent tonight. I was in that semi-hypnotic state long-haul drivers get into, alert but relaxed, mind drifting slightly, thinking about the next fuel stop, maybe grabbing a coffee, what the traffic might be like closer to the city. Standard stuff. Then, in my driver's side mirror, headlights bloomed, not gradually, like a car cresting a hill miles back. They weren't approaching, they were just there, suddenly, filling the mirror with intense, bright light. And they were close. Way too close, tailgating distance. My first reaction was irritation, mixed with a jolt of adrenaline. "What the hell, buddy?" I muttered, gripping the wheel tighter. Some idiot driving way too fast, coming up on me out of nowhere in the middle of the desert? Aggressive drivers are a hazard, especially when you're piloting 80,000 pounds of truck. I tapped my brakes lightly, just enough to flash the lights. A warning. Back off. The headlights stayed glued right there. Exactly the same distance. Bright, unwavering. Okay, maybe they didn't see the tap. I eased off the accelerator, slightly, letting my speed drop from 70 down to about 65. If they were trying to pass, this would give them room. The headlights behind me decelerated perfectly in sync, maintaining the exact same close distance, like they were magnetically attached to my trailer. All right, this was weird, annoying, but also odd. Most tailgaters either get impatient and whip around you, or they eventually back off. This car, or whatever it was, seemed content to just sit there, dangerously close, mirroring my every move. I glanced at the passenger side mirror. Same intense glare reflected there. Two bright, piercing lights. I tried adjusting my driver's side mirror slightly, trying to get a glimpse of the vehicle itself behind the glare. Nothing. The lights were so bright, so perfectly centered, they obliterated everything else. I couldn't make out a grille, a bumper, not even the shape of the vehicle. Just those two intense points of light. And there was something off about the lights themselves. They seemed too white, almost blue-white, harsher than standard headlights, even modern LEDs. And maybe positioned a little low? Or was that just the angle from my high cab? My tired brain tried to rationalize it. Maybe some custom truck with weird lights. Some local showing off. But out here, at this hour, unease started to creep in, replacing the irritation. The sheer emptiness of the landscape suddenly felt oppressive. The silence on the CB seemed heavier. It was just me and this thing behind me, locked in this strange, silent dance on a desolate highway. I decided to try speeding up again. Maybe I could put some distance between us. I pressed the accelerator, the big diesel engine responding with a deeper growl. 65, 70, 75, pushing it a bit on this road, but I wanted space. The headlights stayed right there, perfectly matched my acceleration. Still too close, still blinding in my mirrors. Okay, this wasn't normal aggressive driving. This was something else. My heart started beating faster. Sweat prickled on my forehead, despite the cool night air blowing from the vents. What was this guy's deal? Road rage? Was he trying to force me off the road? But why? I hadn't cut anyone off. There was no one else around. I scanned the darkness ahead, desperate for an exit, a turnoff, anything. The map showed nothing for at least another 30 miles. Just straight, empty highway. I flicked the CB channel selector, hoping maybe another trucker was nearby, even miles ahead or behind. Static hissed back at me, on every channel. Utter isolation. The headlights behind me flickered once. A quick, sharp on-off blink. It wasn't a signal, not like flashing high beams. It was just a blink, like an eye closing and opening. That single flicker sent a jolt of pure, cold fear through me. My rational mind screamed that it was just faulty wiring, a bump in the road. But it didn't feel like that. Coupled with the perfect mirroring, the unnatural brightness, the inability to see the vehicle, it felt predatory, like I was being paced by something not entirely mechanical. My grip on the steering wheel was painfully tight now. My gaze flicked constantly between the road ahead and the blinding glare in my mirrors. I tried angling the mirrors away slightly, but the light seemed to bore right through, reflecting off the inside of the cab. Minutes stretched into an eternity. 10 miles passed. 20. Still, the lights hung there, an unwavering, menacing presence. My mind raced through scenarios. Was it police, running some kind of weird stealth check? No, they would have pulled me over by now, used flashing blues and reds. Was it someone planning a hijacking? Possible, but incredibly risky out here. And usually they try to force you to stop, not just pace you indefinitely. The wrongness of it all settled deeper. The perfect mimicry felt impossible. Even the best driver couldn't match speeds that precisely, that instantly, especially with a heavy vehicle. It felt automatic, inhuman. Then, ahead in the distance, barely visible in the darkness beyond my headlight beams, I saw it. A small, faded green sign. Rest area 1 mile. Relief flooded through me, so intense it almost made me dizzy. A chance to get off the main road, even if just for a moment. Maybe they would pass. Maybe pulling into a lit area, however small and isolated, would deter them. I signaled for the exit well in advance, my indicator light blinking rhythmically. The headlights behind me continued their steady, relentless pace. They didn't signal. They just stayed locked onto my trailer. As the exit ramp approached, my heart hammered against my ribs. This was the moment of truth. Would they follow me off? Or would they continue straight, finally revealing themselves as they passed? I eased the big rig onto the off-ramp, slowing down. The ramp curved gently away from the main highway. I kept my eyes glued to the driver's side mirror. The headlights followed me onto the ramp, still maintaining that perfect, unnerving distance. Okay, they were following. My stomach twisted into a cold knot. The rest area was just a simple loop. A few parking spots for trucks, maybe a dilapidated picnic table and a trash can. Probably no facilities. Not exactly a haven of safety. The ramp straightened out, leading towards the entrance of the rest area loop. The main highway was now parallel to me, off to my left. I slowed the truck almost to a crawl, bracing myself. I had to see what this thing was. I turned my head, looking directly out the driver's side window, back towards the highway I'd just left, expecting to see the vehicle behind me make the turn into the rest area loop. There was nothing there. The loop entrance was empty. The off-ramp behind me was empty. The main highway stretching back into the darkness was empty. The headlights were gone. Not fading into the distance. Not turning off. Just gone. Vanished. In the split second it took me to turn my head from the mirror to the window, I slammed on the brakes, bringing the rig to an abrupt halt right at the entrance to the rest area loop. The air brakes hissed loudly in the sudden silence. I frantically scanned the darkness in every direction. Nothing. No car turning around. No taillights speeding away down the highway I'd just exited. No sound of an engine, accelerating or idling. Just the whisper of the desert wind across the empty asphalt and the frantic pounding of my own heart. It was impossible. A car, any car, moving fast enough to keep pace with me couldn't just disappear like that. Even if they'd slammed on their brakes and killed their lights simultaneously, the moment I looked away, I should have heard something. The squeal of tires, the crunch of gravel if they'd veered off the road. Something. And I would have seen them on the main highway if they hadn't taken the exit. But there was nothing. Just empty road, empty desert, and the vast, indifferent, starry sky. I sat there in my cab for maybe 10 minutes, engine idling, hands shaking, trying to make sense of it. Had I imagined the whole thing? Was I suffering from highway hypnosis? Fatigue playing tricks on my eyes? No. The fear was too real. The memory of those blinding, mimicking lights was too vivid. The sudden, inexplicable vanishing act? That was real, too. I thought about calling it in on the CB. But what would I say? Breaker 19, anyone out there? Yeah, Gary here in the Peterbilt. Just got tailgated for about 30 miles by a pair of headlights that vanished into thin air. Over. They'd think I was drunk, high, or lost my damn mind. Same if I tried reporting it to the highway patrol later. License plate, make and model, description of driver. I had nothing. Just two bright lights and a terrifying vanishing act. Eventually, the need to keep moving, to get somewhere, anywhere, with more light and maybe other people, overrode the fear. I pulled the rig slowly through the deserted rest area loop, scanning the shadows, half expecting the lights to reappear. They didn't. I eased back onto the highway on-ramp, my eyes constantly checking the mirrors, my muscles tense, ready to react. The rest of the drive to Reno was agonizing. Every pair of headlights approaching from behind sent a jolt of panic through me, until they resolved into a normal car or truck and passed. Every flicker of light in the distance made me jump. The vast emptiness of the desert no longer felt peaceful. It felt menacing, full of unseen possibilities. The silence in the cab felt heavy. Listening. I made it to Reno just as the sky was starting to pale in the east. I delivered my load, filled out my logbook, but I couldn't shake the feeling of profound unease. I tried to sleep in my bunk, but the image of those two bright, unwavering lights glued to my mirror kept replaying behind my eyelids, followed by the sickening lurch of their instant disappearance. I drove truck for another 10 years after that night. Drove thousands more miles on dark, lonely highways. Saw plenty of weird things, but nothing, absolutely nothing, ever felt like that again. Nothing matched the sheer inexplicable wrongness of those headlights. I've told this story maybe twice in my life. Usually late at night, usually after a few beers, and always to people who looked at me like I was exaggerating, or maybe just crazy. Maybe I am. Maybe it was just fatigue, a trick of the light, a bizarre coincidence. But I don't think so. Deep down, I feel like I was paced that night by something that wasn't driving a car. Something that could appear and disappear at will. Something that enjoyed the silent, terrifying game of mimicry on that empty stretch of road. And the thought of what else might be out there. Using the vast darkness and isolation of the dead of night as its playground. Well, let's just say I sleep a lot better now that I'm retired. But I still don't like driving late at night, and I always check my mirrors.